What if the most powerful woman in the world, not a queen, not a president, but a princess the entire planet loved, left behind secrets so significant that even her own family wasn't prepared for what they found? 27 years after her burial, something happened at Althorp Estate that nobody outside a tight circle of trusted insiders was supposed to know about. The gates were locked, staff were sent home, and a small, carefully selected group of engineers, preservation specialists, and family members made their way across still water to a small island, the most private grave in the world, and opened it. What they found inside didn't just shock them. It changed everything. This is the story of what happened when they opened Princess Diana's tomb, and what she had left waiting for the world. A farewell, unlike any other. To understand why the opening of this tomb matters so deeply, you have to go back to the beginning. Back to the autumn of 1997, when the world stood still. On August 31st of that year, Diana, Princess of Wales, died in a car crash inside the Pont de l'Alma tunnel in Paris. She was 36 years old. She had been traveling with her companion Dodi Fayed when the Mercedes they were riding in lost control at high speed and collided with a concrete pillar. The world received the news in the early hours of the morning, and within hours, flowers began piling up outside Kensington Palace in a wave of grief no one had ever seen before. 6 days later, on September 6, 1997, over 2 billion people around the globe watched her funeral, one of the largest single television audiences in human history. Her sons, William and Harry, just 15 and 12 years old, walked behind their mother's coffin through the streets of London. Elton John performed a rewritten version of Candle in the Wind. Earl Spencer, her brother, delivered a eulogy that brought the entire Abbey to tears. But after the cameras turned away, after the crowds dispersed, a quiet and private burial took place, one the public never witnessed. Diana's brother, Charles Spencer, faced an impossible decision in those raw days of grief. The original plan had been to bury her in the Spencer family vault at a local church, where 20 generations of Spencers over 5 centuries had been laid to rest. But the sheer scale of public mourning changed everything. Earl Spencer later described being genuinely afraid that the grave would be overwhelmed, unsafe, unguarded, exposed to the tidal wave of emotion sweeping the nation and the world. So he chose somewhere different, somewhere no one could easily reach. Diana was buried on a small island at the center of an ornamental lake known as the Round Oval, within the grounds of Althorp Park, the Spencer family estate in Northamptonshire, England. The lake, surrounded by water lilies and patrolled by 4 black swans, could only be reached by boat. A path lined with 36 oak trees, one for each year of her life, led to the water's edge. On the southern bank stood a Grecian-style memorial known as the Temple, bearing her name and a quote that captured everything she stood for. "Nothing brings me more happiness than trying to help the most vulnerable people in society. Whoever is in distress can call on me. I will come running wherever they are." The island itself was consecrated ground, and for 27 years it remained undisturbed, protected, quiet, and entirely off limits to the outside world. Why now? Why, after 27 years? That question is the one everyone asks first. The answer, on the surface, was structural. An engineering survey commissioned by Earl Spencer revealed that the burial site, situated on a small island surrounded by water, was experiencing problems. Water had been seeping into the ground near the burial chamber. Stability concerns had emerged. The unusual geography of an island grave, beautiful as it was, created engineering challenges that couldn't be ignored indefinitely. British law also played a role. Regulations governing private burials have provisions that kick in after certain time thresholds, requiring inspection and, in some cases, remedial action. 27 years, it turned out, is one of those legally significant markers. But beyond the technical and legal explanations, there was something more human driving this decision. Both Prince William and Prince Harry had reportedly expressed a desire for reassurance, a need to know that their mother's resting place was secure, that she was at peace, that everything was as it should be, that her grave had not suffered damage, that no intruder had ever succeeded in reaching her. Earl Spencer had previously confirmed that there had been at least 4 attempted break-ins to the gravesite over the years. The thought that someone could disturb Diana's rest had always haunted the family. The decision to open the tomb was not made lightly. It was planned in absolute secrecy, with only a handful of people informed in advance. Althorp was closed to visitors on the day. Most of the estate's staff were given the day off or kept far from the grounds. A specialist team, engineers, preservation experts, and professionals from the funeral industry were brought in under strict confidentiality. Earl Spencer was present from the very beginning. Prince William attended, though accounts differ on the precise timing of his arrival. Prince Harry's presence remains uncertain. Some reports indicate he participated remotely via video call from his home in California, separated by an ocean from a moment that must have been for him almost unbearably significant. The process lasted several hours. Every step was documented meticulously, photographed and recorded for historical archives, and then they opened it. The discovery that stopped everyone cold. The burial chamber was found to be largely intact. There was minimal water damage. Diana's casket remained properly sealed. Given the concerns that had prompted the inspection, the condition of the tomb was, in some ways, a relief. But that relief was immediately overtaken by something no one had fully expected. Inside the tomb, the team discovered items that had never been officially recorded in any burial documentation. Items that had been placed there quietly, without announcement, either on the day of Diana's funeral or shortly afterward, known only to a very small circle of people. They were letters, sealed envelopes, carefully preserved, each addressed to a specific person. One for Prince William, one for Prince Harry, one for Earl Spencer, and others addressed to individuals whose names have not been publicly disclosed. The existence of these letters suggests something profound and unsettling, that Diana, in the final chapter of her life, had anticipated the possibility that she might not live to see her sons grow up, that she had prepared for it, that she had sat down, alone, and written the words she needed them to hear, trusting that somehow, someday, those words would find their way to the right hands. In addition to the letters, the team recovered other documents, personal records, notes that Diana had kept privately, never shared during her lifetime, materials relating to her years inside the royal family, evidence of conversations she had witnessed, promises that had been made and broken, agreements that had never been made public, her own perspectives on incidents that history had recorded very differently. And then there was one more item, described by those who saw it as genuinely shocking, even to people who had known Diana well. The details of this particular discovery have been deliberately withheld. The family has said nothing publicly, but those present have confirmed it exists. Words from a mother. Across time. Of all the discoveries, it is the letters that have captured the imagination of the world. Diana's letter to William is said to focus on what lies ahead of him, his future as King of England, the enormous weight of that responsibility, and the kind of monarch she dreamed he would become. She wrote of mistakes she had witnessed from the inside. She offered counsel on love, on choosing a partner genuinely, authentically, not because of protocol or pressure, but because the heart demands it. Those who have been told of its contents say it reflects not bitterness, but a kind of clear-eyed, loving sadness. A mother who saw everything clearly and wanted more for her son than what she had experienced. Her letter to Harry was different in tone, more emotional, more tender, more aware of his particular vulnerabilities. She recognized, with the insight of a mother who watched her younger son closely, that Harry would struggle in ways William might not. She encouraged him to stay true to himself, not to be suffocated by centuries of royal tradition and expectation, not to lose the warmth and connection to ordinary human life that she had always prized in him. She asked him to use whatever platform he had to do real, meaningful good, the kind of good that goes beyond ceremony and ribbon cutting. Her letter to Earl Spencer reportedly concerns family legacy, how she wished to be remembered, how she hoped her story would be protected and told honestly. It is a letter from a woman who knew that the narrative of her life would be contested, and who wanted to give her brother the tools to defend her truth. The remaining letters, to undisclosed recipients, raise questions that may never be fully answered. Who were they for? What did she entrust to them? And have those words now reached their intended readers? The palace, the family, and a war over memory. When word of the tomb's opening and its discoveries reached Buckingham Palace, the reaction was swift. King Charles, Diana's former husband and the father of her sons, reportedly received the news within hours. His response, by accounts, was layered with complexity. The private grief of a man confronted unexpectedly with his late ex-wife's final words existing in physical form, and the more calculated concern of a king who understood immediately what certain documents might mean for the institution he now leads. Camilla, the queen consort, is said to have reacted with significant anxiety. Diana had not hidden her feelings about Camilla during her lifetime. The prospect that the documents recovered from the tomb might contain her private views, written without the diplomatic filters of public life, was deeply troubling to those close to the palace. The royal establishment has reportedly made informal overtures to Earl Spencer, requesting access to, or at least knowledge of, the full contents of the discovered documents. He has refused, and legally he is on firm ground. The materials recovered from the grave are the property of the Spencer family, not of the Crown. The palace has no legal standing to compel disclosure. This has created a quiet but real tension. The palace has long exercised considerable influence over how Diana's story is told. Her image, her letters, her official history, all of it has been carefully managed. The discovery of materials they had no knowledge of, held by a family that has no obligation to cooperate, represents something they cannot easily control. Prince William finds himself caught between two worlds. He is his mother's son, and he carries her memory with enormous devotion. He is also heir to the throne, and he understands what certain revelations could cost the institution he has devoted his life to protecting. Sources suggest William has leaned toward keeping the materials private, honoring his mother without destabilizing the monarchy. Harry, predictably, sees it differently. His memoir, his interviews, his departure from royal life, all of it speaks to a man who believes that transparency and truth are more important than institutional comfort. He reportedly believes some of what Diana left behind was intended to be shared with the world, not locked away in a private archive. Earl Spencer holds the legal and moral authority here, and he is in no hurry. He remains cautious, deliberate, and protective of both his sister's memory and the family's relationship with history. A legacy that refuses to be sealed. What does it mean that Diana left letters in her tomb? It means she was thinking ahead. It means that even in her most vulnerable years, navigating a painful divorce, escaping the confines of an institution that had tried to silence her, rebuilding her identity on her own terms, Some part of her mind was composed enough to prepare for a future where her voice might still be needed. She had already demonstrated that quality in her famous 1995 Panorama interview, the moment she spoke candidly about her marriage, her mental health, and her belief that she had a role to play outside the official boundaries drawn around her. "I'd like to be a queen of people's hearts," she said. 46 million people in Britain alone watched that broadcast. The letters found inside her tomb are the continuation of that impulse. A final act of communication, perfectly timed, not for the moment of her death, but for a future she trusted would eventually arrive. The question now facing the Spencer family, and in some ways all of us, is what to do with what she left behind. Diana's words are her own. Her documents belong to her family. But her story belongs, in a very real sense, to the world. The opening of her tomb was not a violation of her rest. It was, in a strange way, exactly what she intended. A moment where the silence of 27 years was finally broken, and Diana, Princess of Wales, once again had something to say. Whether we will ever hear it is still being decided. But one thing is certain. Even from the quiet island where 4 black swans drift across still water and 36 oak trees stand guard, the people's princess has not finished speaking. If you found this story as extraordinary as we did, share it with someone who still thinks about Diana. And make sure to subscribe, because some stories are too important to miss.